Hey readers, new location today. Unfortunately, because it is beautiful outside, spring is here and we've had gorgeous weather. But the kids have been home for spring break, and so I've been, well, not trapped in the house, but I've had a hard time finding quiet time away and time just to get out and walk and be in the park and talk to you about reading. So I have been able to do a little reading, which is nice, and so let's dig in. First things first, what I finished this week. I finished How to Live, um, the biography of Montaigne, and I have to say it's definitely my number one favorite nonfiction so far this year. Probably one of my more like one of my top nonfiction books that I've read. It's a really interesting setup. It is a biography, but it's the thing that I really enjoyed about it is that it creates sort of a historical context to his life. And there are 20 chapters in the book. Each chapter is trying to answer the question how to live. And for each chapter, there's an answer sort of within the title, How to Live. And it goes through aspects of his life or his philosophy, his writings, and and tries to answer that question. And it's very interesting. There's sort of a lot of times something I struggle with nonfiction is I'm someone who likes narrative, and sometimes I think nonfiction is just like like a throw up of historical facts. And this one's not. I feel like there is a through narrative. It's connective tissue. It contextualizes it within like sort of the historical, framework of the time, and you at the same time are get attached to this person, this personality, this historical figure. So it's well written. It's in like I said, has that through line, that through narrative, and makes me want to read more about him or from him. So could definitely recommend that one. Check it out if you're looking for some nonfiction, French historical world history. I mean, there's just so much going on there. So definitely check it out. Now, as far as what I'm reading currently, I have a couple things going on. One, and this might be a little bit different, but I am reading Swamp Thing. Yes, Swamp Thing. Last year, I, in an attempt to connect with my kids and their reading habits and loves, I started reading some graphic novels. And this is the collection I'm reading now is the third sort of Swamp Thing collection, and it's available on Kindle Unlimited. And so basically, the thing that attracted me to start reading graphic novels was that my kids like manga and graphic novels, and I'm like, okay, well, this will give us something to connect about. We can talk about it or go to the bookstore together and pick stuff out. And so, but beyond that, like I had read like comic books when I was a kid, but something that I hadn't revisited in a long time. And I think, if you read, I don't know, I think there's some judgment of graphic novels, and I probably internalize that to a certain degree. But what I rediscovered with Swamp Thing specifically, and just like graphic novels in general, is they are like worlds better than what I remember our comic books being when I was growing up. And maybe that's just a maturity, like getting older and seeing things differently, or appreciating sort of the underlying art more. I'm not sure, but in general, I feel like they're better. And the thing that I really appreciate about them that I didn't appreciate before is that there is obviously a lot less, written word than there is in a novel, but between the written word and the art, there's so much space for you as a reader to fill in the backstory or to engage with things that are going on that maybe aren't explicit and you have to sort of dig into, or like I said, you can, I don't want to say make the story your own, because that's not exactly right, but you can see it from certain things from different perspectives. And I think that Swamp Thing, for those of you who don't know, has like so many underlying themes, about, nature and pollution and, relationships. And there's so many other things going on that you can really take from it the thing that, you latch onto the most. And so, anyway, I'm in the middle of reading volume 3. It's one of those things where it's like if I just don't feel like digging into like the reading, there's a I don't want to say a mental cost, but there is an effort that goes into actually reading. So if I've got 15 or 20 minutes picking up a graphic novel, and I just don't feel like if I don't feel like reading for those 15 or 20 minutes, I can pick up the graphic novel and just like enjoy it. And it's not as deep, but you do have that connection with the art and what's going on. So anyway, that's one of the things that I'm reading. Love it. And if you haven't checked out a graphic novel, check one out. The other thing that I'm reading is Nemesis Games, which is the 5th book in the Leviathan series or Expanse series. And I'm maybe halfway done with that right now. I know I've talked about, previous books in the series in my earlier videos. And I think I said this last time, but this is my favorite one so far. So I think that's maybe the sign of just a great series. Kind of like, like when you read the Harry Potter series, you like the first one and you like the second one. You just kind of, it builds. This one very much, this series very much builds. And I think, the characters, this book in particular, you're really digging into the characters. And so I'll talk more about that, once I've finished it and give you sort of my overall. But I'm loving the series and I'm loving this book specifically. So, in fact, right after I'm done making this video, I'm going to go read and drink some more coffee. So that is what I've had going on this week. I don't think I did buy a book or an ebook. The Silmarillion by Tolkien was on sale for $1.99 from Barnes & Noble. So I bought that. I read The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit last year, and I've never read the Silmarillion. So I saw it there and figured, hey, why not pick it up? I don't really know a whole lot about it other than that it's I believe, a collection of different stories or different fragments of stories. But correct me if I'm wrong on that, or don't hold me to it. So otherwise, I didn't buy anything new. I did buy something new that was reading related. I got a new e-reader, and in preparation for a trip that we're going to be taking, I wanted to have something that was a little bit lighter and easier to move around with, and frankly not as expensive as the e-reader that I have that I use at home. The e-reader that I normally use is more of a tablet. So anyway, more to come on that. I'm going to maybe do a little video on it because it's a really cool little device. And check out one of my shorts for the unboxing of the box. Anyway, so thanks for tuning in. I'm going to leave you with a quote of the week, and it does come from How to Live. And I think that this is a quote that captures some of the aspects that I really like about the book. But anyway, I hope you enjoy. Some might question whether there's still any need for an essayist such as Montaigne. 21st century people in the developed world are already individualistic to excess, as well as entwined with one another to a degree beyond the wildest dreams of a 16th century wine grower. His sense of the I in all things may seem a case of preaching to the converted, or even feeding drugs to the addicted. But Montaigne offers more than an incitement to self-indulgence. The 21st century has everything to gain from Montaigne's sense of life, and in its most troubled moments so far, it has been sorely in need of a Montaignian politics. It could use his sense of moderation, his love of sociability and courtesy, his suspension of judgment, and his subtle understanding of the psychological mechanisms involved in confrontation and conflict. It needs his conviction that no vision of heaven, no imagined apocalypse, No perfectionist fantasy can ever outweigh the tiniest of selves in the real world. It is unthinkable to Montaigne that one could ever gratify heaven and nature by committing massacre and homicide, a belief universally embraced in all religions. To believe that life could demand any such thing is to forget what day-to-day existence actually is. It entails forgetting that when you look at a puppy held over a bucket of water, or even at a cat in the mood for play, you are looking at a creature that looks back at you. No abstract principles are involved. There are only two individuals, face to face, hoping for the best from one another. All right, that was the quote of the week. Thank you again for tuning in to Books in the Park. Let me know what you're reading down below, and have a great week.